Chapter 38. The Subway Comes. Figuratively speaking, people took a deep breath at the dawn of the 20th century. They forgot the past and began to look ahead. New York, the city of the future, has always strongly felt the spirit of progress. Again, it rejuvenated itself. Greater New York plunged into fresh activity. Its first great problem was that of transportation. The 5 boroughs covered nearly 200,000 acres and included former cities, towns, and villages that were just learning to think and act together as one municipality. Their people must be able to move back and forth without such great delay. Besides, with business continuing to concentrate in the lower part of Manhattan, it became necessary for the majority of people to travel even greater distances between their homes and offices. The surface cars and elevated had long been overcrowded. Now, after much deliberation, New York embarked upon the tremendous project of subway construction, and the first spadeful of earth was turned by the mayor in front of the City Hall on March 24th in the year 1900. Of course, there followed a distressing period of dirt and disorder. A great open ditch, bordered by rough board fences, was dug through some of the busiest streets. Thunderous blasts tore into the city's rock foundation and did no small amount of damage above ground. Wagons hauled away dirt and stone to help build up Long Island City and other parts of the greater unit. While along the subway route, it looked as if an earthquake had just visited the rocky island of Manhattan. Nearly everyone suffered inconvenience and even financial loss, but on the whole took it philosophically because it was the price of progress. Then, after a while, the contractors learned to board over the cut during traffic hours, and the additional subways began to cause less discomfort. In the fall of 1904, the subway was ready for travel. Delighted New Yorkers poured into the openings in such great numbers that facilities designed to handle 400,000 people a day were ultimately jammed with more than twice that number. It became, and in spite of the great extension of the system, still continues to be, an ordeal to travel during the rush hours. But it did furnish really rapid transit. It began to knit together distant parts of the city, a weaving process that still continues, while the city's increase in population keeps always a long step ahead of it. In the beginning, few realized what a mighty city-building influence the subway was to exert. It had been planned to bring the first line down Broadway below 42nd Street, but property owners raised objections and succeeded in having it diverted to Park Avenue, 4th Avenue, and Lafayette Street. These property owners were spared the annoyance of the open cut, particularly in the great textile and clothing districts north of Duane Street, and for a short time they enjoyed their triumph. Then some real estate operators were struck with a bold idea. Why not make it easier for buyers to reach their trades by locating them along the subway? Accordingly, big modern loft and office buildings with high ceilings, large windows, good elevator service, and fire sprinkler protection began to rise along 4th Avenue. The tenants of the dingy, antiquated buildings in the old district required little persuasion to move. They left in such numbers that block after block became almost depopulated, and the value of property dropped alarmingly. Later, when other subway lines were projected, property owners in the vicinity welcomed them with open arms. Additional bridges were flung across to Long Island. Even the Brooklyn Bridge, a few years earlier the wonder of the world, was exceeded in total length by the Williamsburg Bridge, which opened in 1903. And during the next 9 years, the Manhattan, the Queensboro, and the Hellgate bridges took still longer leaps across the East River. An age of science, of mechanical devices, of research and enlightenment was upon the world, and in a very high degree this was evidenced by activities of New York. When the greater city was started, it was hampered politically because of the scattering of responsibilities and powers, so that the need of a new charter soon became evident. By 1901, a charter was granted which provided for greater centralization by centering authority in the mayor and a board of apportionment. Moreover, certain important new departments were established, one of which was the Art Commission, the first of its kind in any city, whose purpose it was to keep an expert eye upon a growth in beauty in such undertakings as monuments and public buildings. In 1907, a Bureau of Municipal Research was created in response to the general demand for specific and accurate knowledge both in business and government was being generally manifested. Columbia College, since 1891 in its present location, had graduated into a university, and Seth Low, its president and the second mayor of the greater city, later bequeathed to it the Low Memorial Library. Charles B. Snyder was elected superintendent of school buildings in 1891 and continued in office for over 30 years, giving to the city a system of buildings that has furnished the model for educational institutions throughout the United States. The passion for better living conditions and enlightenment prompted many large benefactions in the form of foundations. In 1903, Joseph Pulitzer of the New York World founded the Columbia University School of Journalism. The Russell Sage and Rockefeller Foundations, the Altman and other bequests to the Metropolitan Museum and the Museum of Natural History, and the various Carnegie gifts have not only raised the standards of human thought and life, but have also encouraged countless other donors in many fields.